Hi guys, so just sitting here with my cup of tea and just having a few thoughts on racing. I'm thinking about racing even though I'm not even running at the moment, but yeah, that's another story. Injured at the moment, have been since before week of Easter, I think, and so many weeks out. But really hard to deal with injury. Whenever I get injured, I really do not go in a happy place. And I think this time it was made worse because probably I was a leading factor in the injury, ignoring my kind of tight calves, which kind of meant that my tib ant muscle at the front of my leg, of course, overworked because that's the opposing muscle to my calf, my gastroc. And so that overworked, and now it's just a case of getting that to not work as hard, building up my calves so that each playing their role they're meant to be playing instead of my tib ant doing two roles. I can't really even cycle because it's hilly here in Devon. So um, trying to not kind of contract my tib ant muscle too much at the moment. So yeah, sort of in a better place than I was last month. So that is good. And, you know, eventually I do accept what other people say in that it's a great case to have a rest, to have a break, focus on some strength and conditioning work. And it's lucky that we have COVID and there's no races, so I'm not missing out on races. So yeah, kind of feeling much better. So here I am. So yeah, just having my cup of tea and kind of just thinking about kind of running and races post COVID, or kind of post lockdown, because COVID is not gone away, so it's still going to be there. So kind of just thinking ahead basically to races, and Cardiff Half now has kind of postponed till next year. So it's just kind of thinking what it's going to look like basically. And my kind of thoughts, want to be, positive and kind of say, yeah, we'll be back racing in July, but realistically, are we? Or is it going to be close to September? Maybe the smaller races will have a better chance of happening than the kind of bigger races. Maybe England Athletics will say that only races below 200 can kind of take place, and thinking I only know maybe a handful of that's below that, and are races of that number financially viable to go ahead? It's difficult. We're still going to have the 2 meter distancing, so it's going to be an interesting time ahead. And if you think that if EA say races can only happen below 200, that takes out most park runs. So what's going to happen is going to be you turn up and park run on Saturday morning, and you take a chance that you're number 169 and you can run park run, or if you're not, you're going to have to just drive home. Or for your local park run, depending on their numbers, maybe you'll be looking at booking your park run one Saturday a month, or 1 in 3, or something like that, and you just have to book your slots and you turn up on that Saturday and you run. So that's to think about. And then looking to races, maybe the smaller races will happen because they can go ahead because they're only a smaller number and they don't have a big bill to pay before the race. So, it's difficult. And possibly races will have to go back to sending out your number beforehand, because that takes away a queue that you're going to have to manage for social distancing for people picking up the numbers. So does that mean race prices will have to increase to cover the cost? Because what is a second class stamp now? 60 pence, 70 pence for second class stamp? And if you times that, by 200, that's a lot of money for races to fork out. I remember in the early days of racing, you would send an SAE, but I guess we can't send an SAE because a self-addressed envelope, because we've touched it, and so that won't happen. And so along that lines, our race is going to increase because we've got a smaller capacity, so race entries have to increase for them to cover their costs. It's difficult. And I was just thinking that races last year especially were becoming so environmentally friendly. So maybe COVID is a good thing because it will encourage more races to become cupless, and so you have to carry your own drink and food. That's the case because you can't have a drink station with being manned, and because you'd have to get within 2 meters of someone, or whether the drinks will be completely laid out and there'll just be people manning it from afar. But do we want all those cups and plastic? COVID has been, if you think about it, very good for the environment because, pollution levels are so low now because there's less traffic, cars, planes, wildlife is encroaching on cities. So we don't really want to then impact with more plastic. So maybe it's a good thing that we won't be able to have manned drink stations, so you have to carry your own drinks. But on the kind of other end of that, races have been very good at kind of with their mementos saying to their manufacturers, just have a drink of tea. Saying to their manufacturers, don't put the medals each in, individual plastic bags, just put them in a box. Same with t-shirts, don't put them in an individual plastic bag, just put them in a box with all the sizes in. Or will they have to go back to each medal being individually plastic wrapped to hand it to us? Or you could say that no, you don't have to have it individually wrapped because we'll have someone there with gloves on just handing a medal across to you, but then in order to take that medal you are going to be in less than 2 meters, so maybe we'll have to be in plastic and you just have to pick it on the table. Or possibly races that have goodie bags, that's easier because then the medal and your t-shirt and memento can be in the goodie bag, not in plastic, and you can just hit the goodie bag. So maybe more races will have a goodie bag, even if it's just a chocolate bar in there or banana. But then we want that goodie bag to be paper. So it's all these questions that I would hate to be a race director in the next coming months, because it's going to be tough having those questions. And or do you send out the medal with the race number, but that potentially a lot of people are going to have a medal that haven't raced, and it's a nice feeling to get a medal at the end rather than having it beforehand. Having it beforehand kind of takes the speciality out of it, the special feeling. So, that's something else to think about. And of course, with any marshals that potentially, if they do have a feed station or drink station, then the marshal's going to have to wear gloves. But then, you've got to trust those marshals that when they wear the gloves, they don't touch their face or answer the phone. And I'm pretty sure all of us, as soon as we put rubber gloves on to wash up, we suddenly get an itchy nose. So it's very, very difficult. And, you know, it's going to be strange times ahead. And it's going to be weird and interesting to see what happens. And it's simple things like, you know, we may be all really keen to race, but will we actually turn up when we can race? You know, will we trust the system? Will we trust to race to be safe for us to race? And yeah, so, but then, you know, will, you know, the people with an underlying medical condition, so diabetics or asthmatics, will they want to risk turning up for a race and potentially being close to someone who has COVID but are asymptomatic? So, you know, races, the big races who need the numbers to actually make it worth their while, they've got to hope that we all turn up and we all want to race. And so, yeah, it's weird. And I don't know what you guys think, or whether you guys are really keen to race again. I mean, looking back, I did Bath Half days before lockdown here in the UK. So potentially I was racing when we were on the upward curve of infection rates. So I was racing at the peak, or getting close to the peak of infection rates. And I was fine. And, you know, potentially any of us who raced in March, beginning of March before lockdown, we were maybe at more of a risk in March than we will be in October. So technically we should be safe in October. So all these questions and just thoughts, you know, I have in my head basically, of just thinking about how it could look and how race is going to have to adapt. Or do we, for the rest of 2020, just do virtual races and instead of just like the normal virtual races where you can just race the distance, you know, any time within a set period, maybe races will become virtual and you have to race on the day of the event and start on the time that, you know, it would have started, and you send your data off and they compile a results PDF and you see where you have landed and then you get the medal. But then if you're, for instance, if you're aiming for a challenge, like you're aiming for the 100 Marathon Club or the 100 Half Marathon Club, then virtual races don't count. So even though I know a lot of people are still taking part in virtual races, it's not going to count towards their number. So that's another thing to think about. And someone mentioned that possibly races might become like TT races, and you set off at this at intervals, but then you have to hope that you say if it's 5k that every participant has given you their appropriate 5k time and not their PB of 2 years ago or what they were 3 months ago for it to work. And would it actually work? Possibly for 5k distance, but anything more than that, you know, for loads of people, you could be having a 10k race to last 4 hours, for instance. So yeah, it's a lot to think about. And as I said, I would hate to be a race director at this time. And, you know, even now, you know, people, race directors are cancelling big races at the moment, and there's still questions over London. And if Cardiff has gone in middle of October, does that mean London's going to go at the beginning of October? So it's difficult. And these are just my thoughts, my rambling thoughts about what it's going to look like once we can race again. And heart on heart, I wanted to get through lockdown and be ready to race as soon as we can, but of course I'm going to have to build up again. So personally for me, if we could not race until September or August possibly, that would be more beneficial to me. But of course I would love everyone to be racing in July, but is it actually going to be feasible for races to happen in July? Because they've got to keep us safe, 2 meters apart, have more wipes and hand gel, and controlling people at the start, and not as easy at the finish because you're more staggered. But at the start, races have to have, even small races like 200 people, they're going to have a staggered start, like 50 go off and then 5 minutes later another 50 go off, and so on. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. And hand on heart, we want all to be racing as quickly as possible. But, will we turn up? Let me know whether you're going to turn up when you can race, or whether you really just want to leave it until 2021, when we've had 6 more months of kind of controlling the virus, and we're better able to cope. And maybe by 2021, kind of most people have been been infected or have immunity, and it's still safer. So yeah, just a few ramblings. I've gone on far too long. So yeah, let me know how you feel, whether when you think race is going to happen, whether you're going to turn out, or whether you're going to wait until, say, if races happen July, whether you're going to wait more till September, October to join in. So yeah, let me know. But have a good day, rest of the evening, and a great weekend.